Hi, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome back to VCTV. We are excited to have you and also excited to talk about today's topic, impact investing and social responsibility. There's so much to talk about within these two areas, and we continue to cover each of these in many different ways through all episodes of VCTV because, as we've learned from today's speakers and many other speakers of the VCTV family, impact and social responsibility affects all industries, all technologies, and all businesses everywhere in the world. But what's actually happening if you're looking at it from an investment perspective? What do you need to know as an investor, maybe looking to make your first steps into these particular areas or broaden your portfolio, or as a founder, want to open up the gates for your company, product, or service to make sure you're including on impact, or also making sure, again, you are socially responsible as a business as well. Well, that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about here today on VCTV. And as we do, we again bring the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you their thoughts and insights and on the ground perspectives around different technologies, industries, and regions around the world to keep you up to date with the latest trends and information to make the best decisions either as an investor or as an entrepreneur. And if you'd like to be on a show like today as our investors or as an entrepreneur, reach out to the team and or myself. We'll find that right spot for you. Speaking of team, big thank you to the LaToken team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day and bringing us all together to share this kind of information with you. I'm your host, Kyle. Let's go ahead and jump in and introduce all of our panelists today who have much more information to share about this topic than myself, and we'll be having a great time on Friday here together. Wendy Diamond.
I'm first? Oh, yeah.
Okay. You're first.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Maria. Here we are again on Friday. Woohoo, TGIF. I'm Wendy Diamond. I'm the founder of Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization in 144 countries. I created this when I learned that only 1% of venture dollars in the year of 2013 went to women founders. This year, it's like at 2%. So looking at creating movement where we bring governments, business leaders, civil society together to collaborate to find solutions to uplift women in business, and working with all, the U.S. Congress and Governor Cuomo and Mayor Garcetti, and we're, again, in 144 countries. I'm a limited partner in 3 funds focused on disruptive technology and Bitcoin, which is Block Tower Capital, Coin Fund, and Crescent Capital. And looking at any ways, everything I do is about how do we create impact and to make this world a better place. And so I'm very excited about this episode. Thank you, Kyle and Maria.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Wendy. And also excited to talk a little bit more about your organization, particular to today's episode. Blockchain has a huge impact around impact investing, but also the Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization that you have put together has made huge strides in the space as well. So get ready, audience, we're gonna be talking about it. But next up, Catherine, welcome back to the show. A little introduction and a little background.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Catherine Cartini. Please call me Kate. I am the co-founder and partner of Chloe Capital. We're a movement-driven venture capital fund that invests in women-led technology companies around the world. And in addition to investing with a gender and a diversity lens, we also partner with universities and foundations and corporations to host what we like to call Invest in Women programs. And these are kind of like TEDx meets Shark Tank, and they're a lot of fun. And using this very collaborative way of early stage investing, we have helped catalyze millions in additional funding for female founders who are on the forefront of some groundbreaking technology. In addition to Chloe Capital, I'm also the Chief Investment Officer of Social Venture Circle. It's a national network of angel investors, and their primary focus is investing with impact and social responsibility. So that's why I am participating on this call today. Some other hats that I wear as an instructor with the National Science Foundation and a venture partner with Republic.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kate. Again, always a pleasure, and excited to dive into some of those topics today. Irfan, welcome back to the show as well. A little intro and a little background for everybody.
Thanks, Kyle, LaToken, and Maria for setting up this exciting panel. Glad to be here with everyone. My name is Irfan. I'm the managing director of Irfan Holdings. Irfan Holdings is a company that invest in early stage companies. I'm also LPs in various funds, but specifically Fund Holding engages with companies prior to they moving into the fund. And we specifically focus in areas of deep tech as well as emerging markets. Thanks. Back to you, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Irfan. Last but not least, Mr. Gary Fowler, the Grand Master of Artificial Intelligence himself. Welcome back. A little intro and a little background for everybody.
Yeah, great to be here, Kyle. Great to see familiar faces. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce 22 months ago for $1.35 billion. Also, I'm the co-founder of Viva.ai, one of the top AI HR tech companies, unicorn, that I co-founded 4.5 years ago. I'm also co-founder of a company called Zemply, female-led company, Stanford grad, that's working on aging in place. I love impact investing. I started the first accelerator in Russia. And before it was in vogue, I actually had funded half of my students that were female entrepreneurs and helped them with scholarships personally, and also had the first minority female entrepreneur in Russia that we had as part of our class. Today, I have, as of today now, 4 African startups. I actually have my first female Zulu South African startup, which I'm really excited about, because we believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. So one of the things with GSD, which is a company, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, that I co-founded, we're an AI and quantum venture studio, and we look for really impact-oriented companies from around the world, specifically in artificial intelligence, and use Silicon Valley to help them get their message out and to go global. So we love it, and searching for it. We also have on our board, one of the board members of the NAACP in the U.S. is on our board of advisors, Lamel McMorris. I've taken the social responsibility seriously for many, many years, and want to provide the opportunity and some goodness.
Wonderful. And thank you all again for sharing today and joining today's panel. And Gary, I want to come right back to you to kick us off. I mean, you launched this very large initiative in Georgia and for the southeastern part of the United States. $100 million fund is no easy feat by any means, and also focusing on female founders and the underserved. Why did you decide to go into this space? What made you and your partner really want to open this up and launch a fund? And what is the fund's directive looking here over the next 10 years?
Well, I mean, Kyle, I grew up in Pennsylvania on the side of a mountain. I'm a country boy, literally. We grew up in a 500-person village, and then my neighbors were Amish. And so, people have given me opportunities. We were not, did not have a lot of money. And my father was a teacher. My mother was a housewife. And I understood that, anybody with enough opportunities can make a difference. And it wasn't easy going from where we are to where we are today. I went to Russia, and before Americans were going to Russia, and started the first accelerator there, and people said it couldn't be done. And I saw how planting a seed grows. So with Georgia, it just happens that one of the black actors is a very, very good friend of mine. And he and I have been going for years talking about how to be able to make a dent in the universe in the black community. And so each one of us here on the panel, each one of the listeners today can make that difference. It's just one person can create something. So we decided to go out. We say if we plant, take some of the best AI companies in the world and put them in places like Georgia, in a place like Miami, wherever, plant them and plant some seeds, we can actually create some interesting opportunities, especially if we create fellowships for people to come in, the underserved to come in and participate as executives to learn how to grow a company. Because there's a lot of magic that goes around it that you don't you're not going to get it from going to Harvard and getting your MBA or Oxford or wherever. It's just not there. You got to learn by doing. And so what we want to do is we want to create some goodness around. My initiative with Africa today is because it's, you know, there's 1 billion people there in the continent. The continent is ready, really ripe for entrepreneurship, and they're motivated, and they need to have a voice, and they need to have some guidance, and they need to, you know, there's opportunity. So, you know, it's not entitlement, it's about how we can build billion-dollar companies. And guess what? Africa's taken off. India's taken off. We talk about China all the time. We don't think there's like 1.1 billion people in Africa. Mm-hmm. And there are 200 million people just in Nigeria, right? I have 2 companies in Nigeria, 206 million. Most people don't know that. Right? And the Ethiopia's got 100 million. So, you know, we got to get out there. But, you know, part of it is, you know, the goodness about VCTV is you got the reach to be able to go anywhere, to be able to touch their souls, to be able to give them ideas and have them believe in the dreams that can come true. So seriously, I mean, several of them have come from VCTV because they listen.
Well, thank you, Gary. I mean, we appreciate that, and a huge shout out to, again, the LaToken team, to Maria and everyone else that makes this happen, and really to all of you who share with us, as we couldn't do it without you. Me as just a talking head would not be a very fun show. So it's good that we do have each of you to be able to share that expertise. So thank you very much, Gary. And Kate, I want to come to you following up on Gary's point. I mean, he started a fund, you've started a fund, you're also the CIO, so Chief Investment Officer at Social Venture Circle. I mean, when it comes to Social Venture Circle, SVC, as I'll try to refer to it, going further, why impact? Why social responsibility? Many talk that this is their initiative, but why as a choice?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. The members of Social Venture Circle feel so passionate about not only supporting organizations and companies within their community, but supporting people and planet, they like to say. It's all about the next economy. So they're really thinking about things when they make their investments and how it's impacting us 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. This group of individuals are the most, I just got goosebumps. This group of individuals are the most selfless individuals I have ever had the privilege of learning from in my career, for certain, because they're just all about how to pay it forward. They're angel investors, so they have had professional accomplishments throughout the way. And now they're not just looking to make a return, they are really looking to do well by doing good, as we like to say at Chloe Capital. Now with us at our fund, you know, we focus on, we invest with a gender and a diversity lens. Impact investing obviously is a bigger mission beyond just that. And again, we like to look at the United Nations. They've got the 17 sustainability goals. Environment, how you're impacting the fishies in the sea, you know, if you're striving to defeat world hunger, you know, things that are just bigger than us. And the investors at Social Venture Circle are all about it.
It's a great point, and thank you. And I want to come back a little bit more on the next level of that. So taking the investment dive, right? So the thesis and coming together is great. Now, in a minute, I'm going to ask Wendy one question. I want to come back to you to prepare is, you know, making that first investment, how you make investments, how you choose investments, and then what the investment landscape. So I'm going to come right back to you, Kate, on that. But Wendy, I want to come to you around a similar question. I mean, going from an angel investor to an LP to then creating this huge organization on a global scale, which I will champion for you because you do have many chapters around the world that support and feed back into this organization. Paint us that picture. Why did you decide to set all this up? What led to that journey? And now as you look at impact and social responsibility, how have all of this working together to push those things forward?
Okay, so yeah, thank you for this. So yeah, what happened was in 2013, I ended up in Honduras on vacation, not realizing it was the murder capital of the world. And you know, when I was there, I ended up volunteering for an organization that gives microloans to poor women. So when we think about impact, you know, it's like on a ground up approach, because if we're going to create real change in this world, we need to encompass everybody. Right. And so what happened was I learned like these women were getting these $100 microloans. They were paying them back at a 98% rate back. Right. And the men in the 60% range, you know, nothing, you know, don't worry, Kyle, we're not talking about all men. And so, you know, and then you looked at women we're paying, we're 90% of that money was going back to educate their children and provide for their families and bettering the whole, communities, right? And when women are empowered in business, they have self-confidence, they have dignity, they don't allow human rights violations. So that in 2013, I went and looked around the world about what was happening. And I noticed like there wasn't a lot of people talking about women entrepreneurs or women investing or, founders, et cetera. So that's why I created the day in the world. And I got Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio to be the first people who would proclaim the day. And then, of course, now every year, U.S. Congress recognizes the day, and so does, 144 countries and all across the United States as well. And during that time, I started learning about Bitcoin and impact investing. And that's when, in 2015, I bit the bullet and I started investing in impact entrepreneurs. I got involved with Bitcoin, which led me to meeting all the teams, from Block Tower and all these people from Goldman Sachs that were creating all these different funds in the, disruptive technology and Bitcoin space. And, we came together and I'm now an a limited partner with them. I advise them and I bring in women founders that are working on disruptive technology companies or anything to do with companies that are going to impact the world. So as, we've discussed, frequently on VCTV is that, I'm all about it, right? So our movement, especially thinking about Africa and Gary's initiatives there, we're really strong. I mean, I will say our, Africa region are the most excited, and they are working we have an initiative this year is we're working with all the ministers of agriculture to come together to figure out how are we going to support women farmers, right? And so I'm now bringing, some of my impact investments like Producers Market, and we're bringing that to, now we have our pilot program in Ghana, and we're working with everybody there from the president down and all the things. And so, and like Credit Suisse and et cetera. And then of course I bring in all my, with, being associated with the United Nations for the last, 20 years, it's a long time. I brought on the United Nations Environmental Program, right? Because they all do have initiatives, as Kate was talking about, that they really do want to make impact. And what, I always say they're like a little piece of the puzzle, right? By bringing in all these parties together and we come together to collaborate, we can truly make impact. And so when, with our program in India, with United Nations Environmental Program and the government of India, we had a program that we launched 3 years ago with 6 million farmers coming onto our platform and stopping using pesticides and fertilizers and going back to the regenerative farming of, manure, sugarcane, and urine to fertilize the land. I know it sounds gross, but it's actually the most healthiest way to fertilize land. And so that is a project with the government, right? And the government has a program called self-help groups where they give a free mobile phone to these 10 women. And those women every month or every week actually meet and then every month save money. And the government matches that money. Now, what's the saving of money for them is maybe $5. But $5 when you're living in a country where you're making $1 a week or whatever that might be, it's a lot of money. So this, by creating this impact, it's going to change the world. So these are the kind of projects that I'm most interested in. I get involved with these companies that have, disruptive technologies that I can say, hey, let's bring in the United Nations. Let's bring in these governments, because that's what our foundation does. We work with governments, business leaders, civil society. So by having all of this and collaborating together, we can make the biggest impact in the world.
Yeah, and Irfan, I want to come to you next. And before I open, I know a little bit of what you're going to say and how your journey started, but I want to just tell the audience, if you're not picking up on the trend right now, this is all a very personal journey. There's a lot of reasons as to why investors get into the space initially and then see all of more what they can do and how they can do things together as other investors and really make a true impact in the world as well, and things that mean something to them. But before I continue, Irfan, I want to come to you. I mean, same question as I've asked to Gary, Kate, and Wendy is kind of how did you really start your journey in impact and sustainability? And to play off a word that, or phrase, excuse me, that Wendy mentioned, impact companies. You invest and look at companies in the energy space, in the blockchain space, in space. I mean, you're looking at all of these areas that are huge, impactful to our future and to our day to day. And what kind of led you onto this journey as an investor?
Thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate, this panel, such, diverse, group of people with diverse experience, as well as, areas of, where they're making impact. Personally, my journey, and I'm originally from Bangladesh. And so for me, I grew up there, my family grew up there. My country, got independent in 1971. So it's kind of like a fairly new country to begin with. So we, over there, we suffered a lot. We started as probably the poorest country in the world. Right now, we have the highest growth rate in the world. So now that said, I think one of the important aspects over there is that, so growing up, we didn't get a lot of government support. And so personally, I'm going to take a completely different take over here and say that, is because, people like myself and my family, who managed to come out of situations like this, we didn't get any government support. So what we did is that pretty much, we did through, being entrepreneurs, and people are very entrepreneurial. So we wanted to get back to that community every now and then, even when I'm here. So I think, the aspect is, as Gary said, there are several areas. There are opportunities that, massive. There are areas, whether it's, banking the unbanked, whether it's, making, real estate, businesses legitimate over there, because, documentation is not legitimate, utilizing some technologies and new technologies that are helping us. Blockchain, in this case, provides a fantastic opportunity. So that's kind of like my reason to always go back to that area. Additionally, I'm not just involved in that particular region also, because I managed to kind of like take what I have learned and what that enabled me to come over here and build my career. I try to translate that to pretty much other parts of the world where, you could make impact. And, so I think, and there are organizations who are doing that. So, Gary might disagree, but, we at Harvard, we have Asia Center, where we have engaged with over 40 countries across Asia. And the main purpose was enabling entrepreneurs, as well as young women entrepreneurs, young business leaders, to have the sort of support structure and network that they didn't have. And I think for profit organization, which I'm always for, especially when it's in an emerging country, because it creates both opportunity but enables sort of like that giant leap forward kind of scenario, is a very essential tool. So that said, I think, I think in reference to your question, making investment in space, making investment in energy, where does that all kind of like culminate? Of course, those are kind of like my major investment, but I have been actively investing in areas of edtech, in areas of fintech, and these are some of the most pressing issues in those markets, in those community. So one company that I can mention, it's called, it's based in Pakistan. And what they're doing is that, and I think, that picked up during COVID-19, and Pakistan being a very culturally secluded region where women entrepreneurs do not have a lot of opportunity just because of a lot of, social structure over there. This platform allows women entrepreneurs to teach students across Pakistan. In fact, female-led founders, who personally built their life over there, but, educated abroad, went back and started doing, the work. And I think these are some of the fascinating projects that I personally look into, because what you learn from your past experiences, and then you move to another part of the world, then you go back to kind of like give in. I think it's a fantastic story in the making, and we're going to see a lot more of that, and I'm sure there are a lot of them across all parts of the world. Back to you, Kai.
Thank you, Irfan, and thank you, everybody. Kate, I'm coming right to you on this one. As you know, I mean, as an investor, you're looking at many different areas. You're involved in many funds. What is that journey and that first step you take when looking at making an investment in a company, either focused on impact or within your particular thesis around impact?
Well, it's not as easy as some people might think, because at the end of the day, especially as a fund manager, it's not all your money, and you have a fiduciary responsibility to your LPs to get some kind of a return. Being an investor is not necessarily being a philanthropist. So, every fund and firm network out there will have an investment thesis. And when we talk about impact investing, that's one investment strategy. It means that you're looking for companies out there that focus on social and environmental impacts, but that also have a demonstrated history of producing a return to investors. And there's many ways that you can judge that in terms of revenue or sales pipeline or the track record of the founders, etc. In addition to that, now we're hearing a lot of people be vocal about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, another investment strategy. Obviously, you're looking for companies that align with environmental, social, and governance issues. And that's why at Social Venture Circle, again, we really stick true to the United Nations 17 Sustainability Goals. But here's a new term that I learned from my friends at SVC, and it's JEDI. Justice, environment, diversity, and inclusion. Again, they are all about people and planet. So the returns for them are not exactly what's driving them to make their investment decision. They are looking heavily at the founders. Do they trust the founders? Are they industry experts to carry on more of a mission? Of course, they want to see returns at the end of the day, but these are early stage investments. So they understand that business will evolve over time. And if they just provide that early stage financing or funding and they trust in the founder, well, then that's what it's about, that the founder is going to be able to guide through the turbulence of building and growing a sustainable business, as long as at the core of it, they have, again, that JEDI impact in some way: justice, environment, diversity, and inclusion.
Wow. I mean, thank you for walking us through that journey, but also thank you for introducing us to that term. As we talk a lot, as you mentioned, around ESG, but some of the terms that you mentioned in the acronym of JEDI do definitely go unnoticed or untalked about. And again, that's justice, environment, diversity, and injustice as well. This is
want to simplify it or define it. What they are really looking for, again, these are the investors of Social Venture Circle, is climate change, diversity, inclusion, equality. So, think about it in terms of ways like that. You're never for them. There are chapters around the country. Some people have asked us about international investing. I think that they're open to it, though I haven't seen any history of it yet. But hey, that's why I'm there now. I'm there to spark a little bit of change. So again, if there is a country like we heard from the other day with the wastewater treatment model, also something to note is they invest in funds. I would love to give an example without taking too much of the airtime in one gulp. Please. But Incarceration Fund is a new fund that is being raised right now. Gary, this is out of Pennsylvania. So you may even have interest in this, but it's all about the justice and the social impact of helping people who have been incarcerated that are now members of the community, and how they are going to learn from their ways and really create an impact in their community now. So that's Incarceration Fund. And again, it's out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and many members in Social Venture Circle are contributing to this modest but $15 million fund.
Hey, $15 million is not a small amount of money. It's still a big amount. This is great. And even every dollar, as Wendy noted, I mean, a dollar saved is a dollar earned, and any dollar that can go to these initiatives is a greater advancement for everyone, not just those involved, but all of us as we all are a part of this. And Irfan, I want to come to you to follow up on Catherine's comments, but also looking at the later stage on the specifically from the JEDI acronym, which I am now all of a sudden in love with, but also for what it stands for as well. On the environmental section, climate change, you focus on a lot of companies in energy and alternative energy and around climate and sustainability. A lot of those companies typically are a little later stage. They rely on a lot of capital to get started or, again, grow. As an investor, what are you looking at? What are you seeing? What does that investment thesis look like for you as you start to look at the future of the world when it comes from the environmental standpoint?
Great question, and a very technical question too. Thanks, Kyle. That said, I think there are a couple of factors that I want to address first of all. So, in terms of making investments both outside of the U.S., specifically in terms of areas of sustainability impact, as well as women entrepreneurship and justice, I would say one challenge that we constantly face, and this is where why my company gets involved in the early stages compared to my fund, is because of some of the complications that we face in terms of jurisdiction. So that's one aspect that we always have to look into because much throughout my investment experience time, I've both had successful as well as failed experiences in different parts of the world, and one of the complications is always the rule of law or the jurisdiction a particular company is located in. So obviously this is something that we want to understand, and we create certain mechanisms for these companies to work with us. But separately, I think in terms of the environmental footprint, and I think this is a much broader region. So, and the thing is that because there are so many aspects or factors that are not always taken into consideration, which becomes also challenging because what sort of are you going to use the same kind of investment metrics that you use in a fintech company, but also in an environment or a clean energy project. And the thing is that you need to obviously change those metrics every now and then, and you need to expand that metrics. And just as an example, if you may be creating clean energy source, but if you're sourcing your battery using cobalt, which is a conflict mineral coming from some certain conflict country, that there are aspects that would affect that particular project in the long run. So we tend to expand as we go because some of these are not always crystal clear at the very beginning, but we use a proactive approach to understand each project as they come. But I think what Catherine mentioned is very important, is precedence, experience and background of founder. And I think, in general, and trust is not just one-way traffic, it's a both-way traffic, right? So I think trust has to be built, but, today, we have, and which is why, I love coming to VCTV is because, one of the core area of focus is blockchain, and blockchain, apart from, all the hype around the cryptos, has an important element that is able to deliver, specifically in areas of trust. Where trust doesn't exist, we can engineer sort of trust. And this is sort of like I see as the next frontier of impact investments, as well as, operating in transformational markets. Back to you, Kyle.
Thank you, Irfan. And Wendy, I want to come to you next on that to add any comments, both to Kate or to Irfan, at the early or late stage of investing, but also on blockchain. You're an LP in many funds. You've been looking at this technology. Would love to hear your thoughts as to where this all goes. But again, any comments on early and late stage investing?
Well. Right. Like I agree with everybody. I mean, it's about the founders, right? And it's about the team. Like, you're going to invest in the team, and those teams, you've got to believe that they have high integrity. And also, why are they in this space? What is the history about it? Right. And so I think one of the things, I personally look at, I'm, feel very fortunate because of Bitcoin and what's happening finally. And I've been in this space for a long time. So I've been in the ups and the downs, and I've been with it for the whole reason. And why is that? And this is like kind of a story I love to tell people, is the history of Bitcoin. When you think about the founders, right? Well, I think it's founders, and I think Satoshi Nakamoto is somebody they just put out there because they knew if they launched this, technology, the governments would try to knock it down and close them up, right, and target them. And so what I would look at is like, okay, let's look at Bitcoin. It's to me, it's the most important, deflationary financial instrument ever created to bring financial access to everyone. So I'm invested in it. But who am I invested in? The incredible founders that have never sold, any of their stuff, have never transferred anything, and that created just this unbelievable technology. And they were passionate about enabling everyone financial access and enabling peer-to-peer transactions, right? And so I think, this is the same kind of thing. Are the founders, do they have high integrity? And that's what I'm investing in. And what is the impact? Because the impact to me, I want to know about that first, right? And then, if I believe in it, I'm going to connect them to the United Nations. I'm going to connect them to all the family offices I work with, and I'm going to connect them to all the self-made billionaires and billionaires I know, and all the government officials and all the royal families and everybody I know from my lifetime of impact. Because I've been a social entrepreneur my whole entire life. I care about the world. I've never worked for anybody. I'm an entrepreneur, and I know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So I think, looking at companies and looking at the future, I think there's never been a better time for impact entrepreneurs or anybody in that space, because I think there's so many funds. There's so many incubators and ways for them to be able to, find money. And, I'm always available to help everyone, and I want to learn about everything, and I want to see how we can create, a positive impact.
Hell yes. I'll just say that. I'm sorry, Whitney. It's just hearing everyone talk about it. I mean, Kate said earlier she got goosebumps. I am so excited. Just in such just not a general excitement, but just looking at the brightness of the world that is, and hearing from each of you on how you look at this, your journeys. I mean, it's incredible. And people should get excited, and also get excited to help each other and help the world continue to progress. So I was excited pre-show, as we all talked about. Now I'm really excited. This is great. Yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
I mean, you look at today's news. I mean, Kyle, I've been looking at, like, now you guys have the news on the bottom and everything like that. I'm like, oh, this is cool. But look at today, Jay-Z. And, Jack Dorsey just said, listen, for those guys, this is no money, but like, here's $25 million. Here's a $25 million grant of Bitcoin for Africa entrepreneurs that are creating blockchain companies and impactful companies. Yeah. So you know what? Everyone now, it's mainstream. It's mainstream. You've got Jay-Z, the husband of Beyonce, right? Woo-hoo.
Queen Bee. Shout out Beyonce. You're absolutely right. You got that. We also had Robert Downey Jr. announce his fund around sustainability, and again in the impact space and climate change. So Robert Downey Jr. fully living the Iron Man life, as we love and appreciate as well. And thank you, Wendy, for bringing up that news. Maria and I talked about that just before this show on our new episode of VCTV News. Covering that as well. And you also had Amazon going into Mexico. And funny enough, or interestingly enough, I should say, as that news dropped from Jack and Jay-Z, the government in India actually banned cryptocurrency and said, no more, with a 3 to 6 month off ramp for investors to transition. So it'll be interesting to see how this fuels this new uprising of companies and technology, so it doesn't get lost. Which I want to switch gears real quick, as we're coming close to the top of the hour, and we've got a special edition of VCTV after this, as we're jumping into the clubhouse, jumping into the house, everybody. So Gary, I'm having fun. It's Friday. Gary, intelligence. We just talked a little bit about blockchain. Throwing it to you on around AI. What is AI's role, artificial intelligence role, in impact and social responsibility as we look towards the future of how this technology gets implemented?
Well, this is the whole show. This is the whole show. But so I look at it from a couple different perspectives, Scott. One is, we're really cultivating companies, AI companies from around the world, and specifically in Africa today, because those companies have a chance, with the amount of data around them and the current fervor around AI and quantum computing, they have a chance to really do something extraordinary. So we're cultivating those companies because, as I said many times, we're surrounded by data. There's 40 zettabytes of data on the planet Earth today. That would go back, if we took DVD or CDs stacked up it would go 29 times back and forth and growing at over 66% per year. So we are inundated with data. So those companies were really talking to them, curating them to help them understand that it's important to have some type of machine learning AI component in their technology so they get the right kind of exposure so they can deal with the massive amounts of data, and they're doing it. So that's story number one. The other thing is, in terms of impact, I mean, we got a lot of issues, right? We talk about pollution, farm, agriculture, being able to get information and to be able to make some course-correcting decisions on a moment's notice. Is this polluted or not? Is there mercury in the water or not? Climate change, being able to understand what's happened with the climate at any one point in time. So it's about acting on the data faster. And, you know, I liken it to, you know, currently we get physicals once a year, but it's kind of odd because our bodies change very, very rapidly. So by the time you get a physical, you could have cancer, right? An advanced form of cancer. So why wouldn't we want to monitor it on a real-time basis so we can understand how to course correct? Well, that's really about, you know, talk about impact. We got global climate change. And as we know, during the pandemic, because of the reduction of fossil fuels and carbon emissions, you know, this is the first time you've been able to see the Himalayas in 30 years. So we know we're having an impact. But, you know, there's challenges ahead. Data is not going to slow down. We need to understand it so we can make those kind of decisions and understand it on a real-time basis. So AI and quantum computers, right? As you know, actually my article today is on quantum tunneling and its impact on wireless frequencies. So and it sounds a little techy, but reality is it's just going to make it go a whole lot faster than we've ever seen before. There's a lot of technologies that are out there that are going to impact the way we live. And, you know, the space, you know, we've got 8.1 billion people on the planet today. We'll have a little over 13 billion by the end of the century, estimated. The average temperatures are going up dramatically. So what we have to do is we got to look out to the stars and understand, you know, how can we start to mine things, how we can start to colonize other locations. Now, it's not going to happen right away, but, you know, Elon Musk has some aggressive plans for Mars and beyond. So it is time to impact all the way around. The one thing about the digital transformation over the last year is taught us that we have vulnerabilities. We couldn't even get a roll of toilet paper for a while. And we have the most sophisticated quantum computers in the world. It's insane. So we understand that we have vulnerabilities. We understand that we need to work together to be able to course correct them. And quite frankly, I'm very, you know, we're putting our money where our mouth is. And I'm happy that today we've talked about how each one of us can make that kind of an impact.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary, and couldn't agree more. Quick shout out. Where can everyone find you and GSDV online to continue the conversation as we come to close here?
Yeah, you can get me on LinkedIn, Gary Fowler, Twitter. Next week, I have an incredible show on GSD Presents. I've got the mayor of Miami Beach because people have been talking about relocation from Silicon Valley out for tax reasons and the support that's available. So I've got him. I've got Kerman, who's he's got the $48 billion in Bitcoin. I had a conversation with him on Monday and also has Ethereum. But he's going to come on the show talking about the future of, you know, cryptocurrencies and talk about bullish. I mean, he started in 2013 and he's got, you know, it's funny. I've never talked to anybody, Kyle, that went up in value $2 billion literally while I was on the phone. You know? I mean, he said it's
a wild world.
A side note, he said he went into a bank and went into a teller, and he went into the teller, you know, the bank employee, and he said, "I want to give you a Bitcoin," and she wouldn't take it. It was worth $40,000. He was trying to be nice, you know. But I guess when you have 1 million Bitcoins, you can do that, right?
Yeah. Yes, that is true. That is true. And thank you, Gary. And everyone definitely check out GSDV online along with Mr. Fowler as well. Efron, I want to come to you next, as Gary did talk about going to the stars and beyond. where can everyone find you to continue the conversation, whether it be about today's subject or space as an industry as well?
Great. No, thanks, Kyle. And thank you, everyone, for joining this panel, and to the panelists for an exciting discussion. You can reach me through Twitter at Semper Irfan, or through LinkedIn at Sheikh Mohammed Irfan. And yeah, back to you, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Wendy, where can everyone find you and your wonderful organization as well online to continue the conversation?
You can reach me at wendydiamond.com, and you can see all the investments I'm in and the funds that I'm in, and you can find anything you want. You can contact me there and all my social media. And super excited just about this space, and anybody who's looking at the pet space, how we can keep our pets living healthier and longer. I am investing in that space big time. And anybody in agriculture or energy, you know, I'm in that space in a big way too. So just very excited, and thank you again for having me on.
Wonderful. Thank you. Kate, close us out. Where can everyone find you, Chloe Capital, and also SVC as well?
Absolutely. You know, one point is, listen, ESG investing really does de-risk itself over time. Back when they started calculating it in '96, it was something like $600 billion in asset. Now it's something like 15 trillion. So that's US News. You can look that up. Listen, I never want to be a blocker in terms of any of the opportunities that are at the table. So when we're talking about environmental, you know, how it impacts the earth, and that can be climate change policies or greenhouse emissions or carbon footprint or water related issues, please go to svcimpact.org so you can pitch all of the investors in that community. Social, we know Chloe Capital's got a heart for women-led technology companies and diverse leadership teams, and that can mean, you know, employee treatment and employee engagement so there's no turnover, and employee training and development. We love investing in post-secondary education and workforce development. So please go to chloecapital.com and you can apply for our opportunities there. And then the third thing when we talk about ESG is governance. And I think Kate Cartini lies in here. And it's, you know, executive compensation for bonuses and perks, making sure that they don't get huge bonuses upon an exit, or the compensation is actually tied to metrics. Well, I like to talk a lot about that, and I use VCTV to do a lot of my soapbox standing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate, Wendy, Gary, Irfan as well, for sharing everything today, and so much more to talk about. And we will continue this conversation with each of you, as well as the entire VCTV family around these, again, and very important topics. And to your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, share the article, check out the archive on LaToken.com to hear from all of our wonderful speakers today and the entire VCTV family from around the world. And if you'd like to be on a show like today's as an investor or as an entrepreneur to share your company, product, or service, reach out to the team and or myself. We'll find the right spot for you. Speaking of team, a big thank you to the LaToken team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. And I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott, along with all social media platforms, just like all of our speakers today. And when you do reach out, please make sure to add context, where you heard us, why you would like to continue the conversation, and what that continuing conversation will be about as well, so we can make it the most efficient together. With that, we're jumping into the house, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a short break. In about 10 minutes, we're going to jump into a special edition of VCTV to talk all about blockchain and the entire world of digital currencies in Clubhouse. Everything happening this year. So join us there. Thank you all. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. To your audience, have a great weekend as well. We'll be back here more VCTV. Take care.